holidays are often a time for family and friends to come together and celebrate. And for John Jones and his family, the Thanksgiving holiday was no exception. As Thanksgiving Day approached, John and his brother decided to go on a caving adventure at Nutty Putty Cave. Despite John's caving experience, what began as an exciting and fun outing quickly turned tragic when John became trapped in the cave. On November 24, 2009, just a few days before Thanksgiving, John Jones was eager for some family fun when he and his family decided to explore Nutty Putty Cave in the Utah desert near Salt Lake City. Growing up, John's father often took him and his younger brother, Josh, on caving adventures throughout Utah, allowing them to explore a wide variety of caves. Although John's caving adventures had slowed down in recent years, he still considered himself an experienced caver. He had recently become a father. His wife was pregnant with a second child, and he was busy pursuing a career as a pediatric cardiologist at the University of Virginia. These responsibilities kept his schedule packed, leaving little time for cave exploration. On that day, John, his brother Josh, and a group of friends set out for a caving adventure at Nutty Putty Cave. They arrived around 8 p.m. with a group of about 11 people ready to explore the cave's intricate passages. The exploration began smoothly as they navigated the cave's largest room, which featured winding tunnels and large boulders. They descended a slope known as the Big Slide, a 45-degree incline equipped with a guiding rope. The cave also included challenging passages like the birth canal and the aorta crawl, which were tight and difficult to navigate, making them suitable only for more experienced cavers. Despite being aware of the difficulties, John, Josh, and two friends decided to explore the birth canal, a narrow and challenging passageway that eventually opened into a larger room. They spread out to locate this particular tunnel. John and Josh chose the passage on the left and ventured through a small tunnel for about 15 minutes. The tunnel was undulated up and down, with rock outcroppings and tight squeezes that required them to twist their bodies in various orientations. Navigating through it involved careful maneuvering of their shoulders, hips, and legs, rather than simply pulling themselves forcefully through a tight space. This tight space, known as the corkscrew section of Nutty Putty Cave, is infamous for its extreme tightness and the skill required to navigate it. After this section, the tunnel inclines for about 5 feet before plunging down a rock ledge with a sharp 90-degree turn to the left, a spot where many cavers have turned back if necessary. 5 years prior, a 16-year-old named Brock Clark, standing 5'7" and weighing 140 pounds, became wedged in this very section while trying to turn around. It took the rescuers 14 hours to free him.
Finally, out of the cave, Brock Clark said this about his rescue.
It's like just a cord, and they tried to pull me out, and it squished my intestines a lot, and freaking killed, and now my hips are all screwed up.
Now John Jones, at 6 feet tall and 200 pounds, found himself in the same predicament. Unable to reverse in the cramped space, John pushed forward over the ledge, squeezing through a narrow passage. Unaware that he was venturing into uncharted territory, he struggled with the tight fit and the pull of gravity, eventually calling out to his brother Josh to retreat and avoid following him. John pressed on with his headlamp, briefly illuminating a hole in the floor ahead that seemed to offer a path to a larger space. Unbeknownst to him, he had wiggled into a nearly vertical fissure, which rendered any chance of turning back impossible. The narrow crevice trapped him in a space just 10 by 18 inches, about the size of a front-loading washing machine's opening, but far more irregular and constricting. John found himself almost entirely upside down at a 70-degree angle. Desperately, he attempted to push himself upward from this precarious position, but the effort was exhausting. His arms were immobilized, with one folded under his chest and the other pinned against a rock. Despite straining against the walls, he realized that his attempts to climb back 5 feet to the shallow tunnel were in vain. While his calves and feet remained somewhat free, his legs were trapped in the tightest part of the fissure, just 8 inches wide. John's desperate cries echoed through the cave, each shout a signal of escalating panic. Josh, his brother, knew the situation was grim. John's attempts to turn around were not promising. Determined to help, Josh navigated the tight corkscrew path, this time entering feet first to better handle the tight squeeze. As he followed the sound of John's voice, Josh's heart sank when he saw the troubling sight. John's leg was protruding from a narrow fissure, making it look as though the cave had swallowed him whole. With urgency, Josh inched forward until he could grip one of John's legs, trying to pull him free, while John pushed from his end. Despite their best efforts, they were met with frustration and exhaustion. Realizing the severity of the situation, Josh knew they needed professional help. They quickly agreed that Josh would go seek assistance, while John focused on staying as calm as possible. Meanwhile, a family friend entered the tight space, speaking soothingly to John to keep him calm until help arrived. Susan, the first cave rescuer on the scene, arrived around 12:30 a.m. and quickly navigated through the challenging corkscrew passage to reach John. Her small stature allowed her to move swiftly, and she found him wedged upside down after being trapped in that position for 3 long hours. As the night wore on, dozens of rescuers gathered at the cave, ready to assist in any way they could. The rescue team brainstormed tirelessly, generating plan after plan. They considered everything from lubricating the cave walls to devising a rope rescue system. Ultimately, they decided to thread a rescue rope through a series of climbing cams, tying one end around John's legs while the team pulled out the other. Simultaneously, they attempted to drill away chunks of rock near John, but the combination of hard rock and John's awkward position made the drilling slow and arduous. They managed only a few inches of progress after an hour of effort. John's nearly upside-down position added to the complexity of the situation. Only his feet were visible to the rescuers, and the low ceiling prevented them from pulling him out without his feet getting in the way. Time slipped away as the team worked frantically, initially failing with their first climbing cam system. After several hours, they set up a pulley system to hoist John back to the ledge. With each small pull, John rose 4 to 6 inches, which reduced the pressure on his upper body, allowing him to breathe more deeply. He felt blood flow return to his lower body, but this came with a new challenge. Intense pain as his nerves fired up. At times, John screamed in agony as the rescuers continued their relentless efforts. At one point during the rescue, a 2-way cable radio was lowered into the cave, allowing John to speak with his wife. She was waiting anxiously near the cave entrance on the surface. Though they were both agitated, they found comfort in each other's voices, offering words of encouragement and solace amid the chaos. Everything changed when the rescuers completed the installation of their pulley system and began the arduous task of pulling John out. Working in an 8-man tandem, they tugged in unison, making gradual progress. John was in excruciating pain at times, prompting frequent pauses to let him recover. Each pull, however, brought him a bit closer to freedom. A rope had been tied around his legs for hours, leaving them completely blue and without a discernible pulse. Despite the agony, each tug forced him to cry out, his nerves hypersensitive to the pressure. After pulling him upwards the 3rd time, they were finally able to lift him high enough for Ryan, the closest rescuer, to make eye contact with John. Although exhausted with red eyes and a dirt-smeared face, John seemed resilient. However, after 19 hours upside down, he had lost all control over his legs. Without his ability to bend his knees to the side, the rescuers were considering the desperate measure of breaking his legs to maneuver him back into the passage, as time was quickly running out for John. As the rescue team pulled John upward for the 4th time, disaster struck. The rope suddenly went slack, sending the entire team tumbling backward. Ryan felt something hard strike his face and momentarily blacked out. When he regained consciousness, all he could see was a cloud of dust. As this slowly cleared, he realized that the stone arch near John's legs, where the rope had been tied, had shattered, and the nearest key bolt had snapped off. It was difficult to see through the dust, but Ryan had to get out of there quickly. John had slid back down into the crevice, seemingly even deeper than before. He was unable to free himself in any way. This moment marked the beginning of the final demise of John Jones. After Ryan was checked out in the pit and sent off to the hospital, his father, Dave, took his place in the passage with John. It took an hour to re-establish the pulley lines, and Dave tried to tie a rope around John's body, but couldn't get the rope past his wedged torso. During the entire time Dave was with John, John was not responsive. After a tense struggle, Dave managed to free himself and drilled a new hole for the pulley system before crawling out of the cave, exhausted. Another rescuer took his place but was unable to establish contact with John. This entire operation required John's help to effectively rescue him. Soon after, a medical professional reached John. It was 11:56 p.m. And at midnight on November 25th, the heartbreaking reality set in. John had succumbed to his injuries. After spending 27 hours upside down, his heart had given out. John was pronounced dead at just 26 years old, leaving a deep sense of loss among all those who had fought so hard to save him. The following day, authorities confirmed that it was too dangerous and difficult to retrieve John's body, so Nutty Putty Cave became his final resting place. This decision led to the permanent closure of the cave to the public. A plaque was placed there to commemorate the life of John Jones. If you found this video informative and thought-provoking, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe, comment, and share it with others who might benefit from this story.